Good morning. This is Angela with a cup of tea on Thursday, August 18th, 2011. If you woke up this morning and your world was completely different, and the world was completely different, how would you react? Would you panic and freeze up and get paralyzed, or would you be able to stay in peace and calm and clarity? I ask that question to people often, and 9 times out of 10, I get a panicked look in response, and then they say, well, what do you know? Why? What do you know? What do you know? What do you know is going to happen? Or what do you get? What do you hear? And I laugh and say, thank you for your answer, because that's it right there is panic. We are in this time where, again, I've said this so many times, that we're throwing out our box and the only constant is change. And my feeling is that it's going to increase exponentially in the short term. And so it's so important for us, if we want to proceed up our mountain, up our individual paths to enlightenment, if we want to proceed with grace and ease and balance and harmony, that the best thing for us to do is to let go of the shore and to go with the current, as I've sort of talked about ages ago with that Hopi Elder statement. So what happens is there's so much of this going on out there, so many people talking about the same kind of message in the whole spiritual sense, everything else, that we compartmentalize it. In fact, I've talked to people a lot about this lately too, is, well, you know how to do this, why don't you do it here? You know how to heal, you know how to clear something, you know how to get rid of blockages. I mean, these are people who do energetic work and psychic and intuitive work. So I say, well, you know how to do this, then why are you not doing this in this part of your life? And then I get this, this hesitation, and I say, because, that's compartmentalizing it. That's a habit one of those habits we've gotten into, which is we compartmentalize our spirituality, and that comes from compartmentalizing our religion, and that comes from years and years of so many experiences in different cultures for being persecuted for our beliefs and stuff like that. And it's all part of that habit that we have formed, and we compartmentalize. We are spirits, and having a physical experience, and so our spirituality is actually our entire existence. Yet we've gotten into this habit of compartmentalizing, and we forget, oh, I can be great and happy when I'm meditating, but then in 10 minutes after I'm done meditating and I'm back working or I'm doing something, well, then I'm going to get really uptight and lose control and panicked about something. And why then did you go and meditate? Why then did you go and tap in? If you're not going to be tapped in at all times, it can help you. It helps us in all parts of our lives. And for the best grace and ease, it's time to take our walls down and to assimilate all of this knowledge, all of this peace and calm and serenity, and the tapping back into our divinity is all a part of our entire life. We are just going through such an incredible time. And yet, I think what's happened is, like I said, this message has gotten out here so much that we're looking at it like we're reading a book. And we might take it to heart, like I said, in this compartment, but then we forget about everything else. We never put ourselves in the situation. We never say, what would happen if I was in this movie that I was watching, where the main character wakes up one morning and thinks that they're going to, go do the thing that they've done 50,000 times before, for that day, and their entire world gets turned upside down. How many times have you seen that in a movie? And it changes from one extreme, from a slight change in their life to a drastic change. You can go to things like War of the Worlds, or you could go to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or whatever. And what would happen? Well, how would you react to that? I get reminded more and more to be the peace in the storm, to remind others to be the peace in the storm, because we are going through this very tumultuous time. Very, very cleansing, so much change going on. So one of the most awesome things that I saw recently was in a video that I watched, and I can't remember where, sorry, but I've said this so many times in sort of a slightly different form, but there is, and the way this was stated was so perfect. The person said, there is no ascension. There's no enlightenment. And it's true, because the truth of it is that we're already there. We already are enlightened. We already have ascended. We already are at our higher selves and at the higher planes of existence, at the higher vibrations and the lower densities. We are holographic beings, and the difference is this: where are we focusing our consciousness? Are we so wrapped up in the play that we've forgotten that we're playing a part? Or are we able to pull out the perspective from the producer or director standpoint and say, yeah, I think I want to change that a little bit. Or, I love my creation. Look at the art I created. And what's funny is that if all we do is change perspective, then you can change the way you approach it in such a different way. If you can remember from your higher self's perspective that, okay, we know this whole play. We know this whole play. We also made up all the rules. We created the props. We created the stage, the settings, the costumes, and all the parts. I don't like that part anymore. I'm going to change it. Or, you know what? I love the idea of the theme. I love the whole storyline. But I'm going to change the way this character or my character deals with that, or how all the laws that are affecting it. It goes back to that webcast that I did about childlike wonderment and stepping in faith and believing that anything can happen and everything can happen because we are the divine and we do have all the power inside of us. So when we stop giving our power away, when we stop saying that we're victims of the situation around us, and we can remember, wait a second, I can change this. And you truly, truly just change your perspective and change it. It changes the way we deal with everything. And if you can start with some little things and then build up to larger things, it makes a big difference. So to get there, one of the most basic things is something we talked about in the very beginning, and something that I do a lot of teaching about, which is tapping into our higher selves and quieting the chatter of the ego, which is completely locked into the rules of this dimension and this physical existence. Because once we can do that, it makes it so much easier for us to be able to pull out and change our perspective. When we really tie ourselves back in with our higher selves, when we get into the habit of being able to calm all the chatter, to find the heart again, and to go back up into that higher consciousness and say, okay, so is this right for me or is this not? We don't have to look to anyone else for the answers. All the answers are within ourselves, because we are sparks of the divine. We have all of that power, all of that self-empowerment is ours. We've just pretended to give it away. So before you listen, so what's really important for the most grace and to really, really grow from this experience in our empowerment is to be able to accurately, without emotion, without panic, without the panic of the ego, be able to go right into that higher self and say, hey, what should we do next? Or is this right? Or is this the highest and best, or with the most grace and ease for me? Instead of letting your neighbor or somebody in your family or your coworker, your boss, the government, your teacher, or your religious leader, before anybody tells you how to react to something or how to incorporate something, the best thing for all of us, and the biggest lesson we have here, is to remember it's all within us. We don't need to ask anybody else. And you know what, by the way, what's best for that person who's telling you what to do might not be the best for you, and that includes me. So if this doesn't resonate with you, if this isn't what you feel comfortable with, or you prefer to stay a drama addict, which would like I said, which we are in many respects because of the habits that we've gotten into over the thousands of years, that's your choice. But if we want to really really remember that there is a day we can wake up and our entire world can change. If it's been thought up, it can happen. And if that happens, can we stay in calm and peace and serenity? And can we look at it from that producer or that creator's perspective and say, okay, yeah, I sort of like this theme a little bit, but let's be able to cope with this with the most grace and ease and have fun with it. Versus, oh my gosh, I'm in this movie, I'm in this play, and I can't get out. I can't get out. I just have to do it. Okay, whatever. Whatever. It's just, I'm just such a victim. There's huge differences in the way to think. So on that, I'm going to let you go. I want you to think about that over the weekend. I want you to think about how and if you can get back into yourself, and if something did happen to change your world, will you be able to survive if it was just you, yourself, and yourself, to get you through with the most grace and ease. On that, have a great day. We'll see you Monday. This is Angela with a Cup of Tea.